Hello and welcome in. So, returning players and 20-year OGs alike can remember the crazy, amazing glitched and hacked items of yesteryear. Before I was aware of these, I couldn't understand how can a Boazon go out into a cow game, shoot one shot of multi-arrow, and drop an entire herd of cows in just that one hit. Or you'd see these Nova sources go out and they would just boom, 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 shoot off them Novas so fast it'd make your head spin. A full cow game, and that's what everyone did back in the day, cow games. That full game with 8 full players would be done in maybe 1 minute, and in that same amount of time, I might be able to take out one herd of cows without having all these crazy glitched items. I did end up eventually being able to get my hands on some of this stuff because obviously they were duped to Kingdom Come. But in subsequent patches, as the years went on, many of these items were removed, but some of them still exist to this day. So today, we're taking a waltz down memory lane looking at the absolute best glitched and hacked items that ever exist in Diablo 2. As we get into it here, I just want to remind everybody real quick, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe up so you never miss any of the Diablo 2 content, and that way you'll catch me streaming live. I stream live right here on this YouTube channel, and hit the like button for me real quick. I'm putting out a big goal here. We're trying to get 7 million likes on this video. I know it's a high goal, but I know we can reach it with your help. Now, let's get after it. These items are in no particular order, but I'm going to start off with the white rings. These rings were incredibly odd in appearance because they were not blue or gold like magic or rares, they were not brown like uniques, or even orange like a crafted ring. They simply said ring in a normal white font that regular plain items were written in. Speaking of what was actually on the ring, your jaw will drop if you've never seen one of these before. 100% faster walk run, 100% increased attack speed, 20 life leech, a huge amount of added damage, and 95 to max resistance for each of fire, lightning, and cold. This particular hacked item under no circumstances would ever be confused with a legit item because it is so incredibly overpowered. These were seen on both US East and US West, but of course no longer exist on any of the Battle.net servers. The next item on the list is incredibly reminiscent of the white ring, and that is the white gloves. They share many of the same attributes as a white ring, and almost seem to be specifically designed to work best in concert with them. To start, the glove had the same odd appearance, being just plain white as if you had just found an item with no attributes. But of course it did, and overpowered ones at that. It has 100% faster walk run, 100% increased attack speed, and the same amount of added damage. It differed slightly in the life leech, this glove only having 15 instead of 20. But then differing from the ring, the glove had both 90 to dexterity and vitality, making them great for Boazons. To put the bow on top of that, it had 100 to all resistance. While the rings were known to exist on both East and West, the gloves were only known to exist on US West, also no longer in existence. The first two were obviously for melee damage dealing characters, but now we're moving into a crazy caster item with the OCCY ring. As the name suggests, it was a ring that had all the attributes of the Oculus on it, and you will notice that the name on the ring actually reads Stone of Jordan. It appears to be a fused item. I'm not going to go into crazy detail on how fused items are created, but it is simply the case that a unique item has the attributes from a different unique item copy over onto the base. There's quite a few different fused items out there, but this is actually not thought to be one of those, but instead it's expected to be a clever hack. This is thought to be the case because there was actually 2 separate types of OCCY rings, one on US East and one on US West. One had the exact same stats as the Oculus, and the other one had 30% faster cast rate replaced with 30% faster block rate. Another reason it's thought to be a hacked item and not a fused item is because it no longer exists in any form on any realm. If it was a legitimate fused item, imagine the rarity of that. You would need the odds for a fused item to actually happen, and then those 2 fused items would have to be something as rare as the Oculus, and then even rarer, one of the hardest things and one of the most sought after items in the game, an SOJ, and have those roll together in that glitched fused item. We'll follow that one up with another item for the casters, and that is the WIZSPIKE gloves. This is a fused item which I talked about earlier, even though most people probably had duped pairs of these gloves used on their sorceress. The original pair might have well been found legitimately off of Mephisto though. The WIZSPIKE is known as a great caster option for the sorceress, which most people would use until maybe you got your hands on an Oculus. Back then, you gotta remember, there weren't all the overpowered rune words like there are now, so the Hoto was not even an option. So even though the WIZSPIKE isn't incredibly overpowered, take those same stats and put them on a pair of gloves, and damn, you got some nice sorceress gloves. All of those stats easily beat out what you usually got on a caster glove, the Mage Fist and Trangs gloves, which are still the go-to options nowadays. Even though the original could have been legitimately found, the WIZSPIKE gloves no longer exist on any of the realms. Zygarde Stealth is the first item on this list that I never actually got a chance to use, but looking at the attributes on this, there was no way I could pass this one up for the list. I definitely had to do some due diligence to make sure that this item ever actually existed because these stats are crazy insane. This one is a bit of an oddity as well, just like a lot of the stuff on the list, because this one was actually a real item back in the original game. They must have decided it was way too overpowered. This belt was originally Nosferatu's Coil, and then when they came out with a new patch at one point, they changed the name of this to Zygarde Stealth, and they came out with a new Nosferatu's Coil with much less overpowered stats on it. I'm not sure how the development team didn't see this, honestly, because with all these different stats on here, this belt is insane. Because this was a legitimate item found back in the day, there are still some of these floating around on the realms 15 and 20 years later. It can be found actually on all realms. So while I was doing the research looking up this item to make sure that it was legit, I actually found that you can actually purchase these online. I would suggest never do this, but you technically can. And one place that was selling items online for Diablo 2 was selling a legit Zygarde Stealth for over $4,000. Just thought that was a funny fact. This one, in my opinion, is the most powerful item to ever exist in Diablo 2. And as you can see, it is obviously not legit and completely broken, hacked item. There were two versions of this Hex Charm, a mana version and a Vita version. They both had 90 to both strength and dexterity, but one obviously had 90 to mana and the other one had 90 to vitality. The vitality version was worth a ton more since obviously mana is only used for builds like energy shield and stuff like that. Or possibly if you wanted to just have a few extra mana versions of these to boost your mana up. These were known to be seen on Europe and US West servers, which is why when I was younger, I did dabble a little bit in the US West server, even though I generally play on US East, in order to get my hands on and try the builds with some of these amazing hacked items that could not be found in East. It would be wild to see back in the day a duel game where one character would have a full inventory of 40 vitality hex charms, and you'd have 7 people that were legit players just crushing away on this guy, and you would not take his health down even 1 point, it seemed. It was wild. They are, of course, like most of the hacked items, no longer found on any of the realms. Back in 09, not the year but the patch, there was a glitch where you could remove a rune word from an item, but then the item would keep all the attributes that it had previously gotten from that rune word. Then you could proceed to put as many items in that socket as you wanted to. Often it was 4015s or Ohm runes. For the weapons, the rune of word of choice was often silence, leaving you with 6 open sockets after you remove the previous rune word to plug as many jewels and runes in and make these items with crazy high amounts of enhanced damage. Ith items are kind of unique on this list because they could actually be made in all different types of bases. When you had multiple of these items on your character, you could really boost up the damage output crazy. There were indeed Ith armors, shields, and bows, along with all different types of swords, and really all different types of weapons. Constriction rings are next here on the list, and they actually have a very interesting story. They were actually made for the game, based off an item from Diablo 1. But for whatever reason, the developing team decided at the last minute that they didn't want this item in the game, and I can see why. 100 all res, 100 magic find, 15 to max res is insane. And the minus 30 drain life really isn't much of a negative effect to counteract how sick this item really was. Instead of deleting the code for the ring in the game, they just turned off the drop chance for the ring. At some point though, the ring was discovered in the code, and somehow someone got this item into the game and duped it like mad. It was known to be found on US East, West, and Europe servers, but no longer exists. Make sure you wreck that like button for me, and if you like this video, look at these videos over here on the side of the screen. I guarantee you're probably going to like one of these too. Peace out, YouTube. Hopefully I catch you next video, and don't forget, keep slaying!